Welcome to The Deep Dive, where we take your fascinating collection of sources and distill them into insights that truly matter. Today, we're tackling a topic that, well, it touches nearly everyone. It's a conversation that can feel pretty daunting, honestly, yet it's utterly crucial for our financial well-being. Have you ever walked away from a job offer, maybe, or raised discussion, and later found yourself sort of replaying the conversation in your head, thinking, did I leave money on the table? Or perhaps, could I have done, so much better? That nagging feeling. It's incredibly common. And it's precisely what we're hoping to unravel for you today. We're embarking on a deep dive into the psychology of salary negotiation, how to overcome your biases and get paid what you're worth. And look, this isn't just about chasing a bigger paycheck, although, let's be honest, that's certainly a fantastic outcome. It's profoundly about recognizing and valuing your own worth, your skills, your time, your contributions, and then confidently translating that into a stronger financial foundation for the life you truly aspire to lead. We're going to explore what our own minds, throw at us during these critical moments.
It's absolutely true. That feeling of potentially leaving money on the table, it's something many of us share, often much more than we realize. And what's truly fascinating here, from my perspective anyway, is that it frequently has less to do with our actual market worth, the objective value of our skills and experience, and much more to do with these deeply ingrained psychological patterns. They really influence how we perceive, pursue, and ultimately secure that worth. My decade working in financial psychology has shown me this time and time again. We're squarely in the captivating realm of behavioral finance here, which is essentially where economics meets psychology. It's a powerful, really interdisciplinary field that fundamentally challenges that traditional idea that we as financial actors are always rational. It vividly illustrates how our emotions, our cognitive shortcuts, our inherent biases, they shape our financial decisions in ways we often don't even consciously register. So our mission today is really to pull back the curtain on these psychological forces. The idea is to turn what can feel like apprehension and self-doubt into genuine, actionable empowerment for you.
That really reframes it, doesn't it? From just numbers on a page to something deeply personal, deeply human. When you say deeply ingrained psychological patterns, what's really going on beneath the surface? What makes this so much more than just a spreadsheet calculation? Because let's be honest, it's rarely just about the figures, is it? When you're sitting across from a hiring manager or maybe even talking to your current boss about getting a raise, there's this whole brew of emotions swirling around. You feel it, right? A palpable fear of rejection, maybe a distinct wobble in confidence, perhaps even that little voice of self-doubt whispering in your ear. The British even have this wonderfully descriptive word for this kind of anxiety: collywobbles. It perfectly captures that nervous, fluttering feeling in your stomach, almost like butterflies doing acrobatics. And it's not just uncomfortable, it actively, silently sabotages our potential.
It really does. The collywobbles are real.
And here's another layer to that challenge, something I find really interesting. Many of the most beneficial things for our financial health are often incredibly invisible. Think about it. When you buy, say, a new gadget or a great new outfit, you get something immediately tangible in return. You can hold it, use it, wear it, feels good.
Right. Instant gratification.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But saving diligently for retirement or making a smart long-term financial decision today that won't really pay off for years, you don't get an immediate physical reward, do you? It's delayed. It's abstract.
That's a great point.
Similarly, the true impact of a good salary negotiation often isn't felt right there in the moment. Kind of compounds later, doesn't it? Over weeks, months, maybe even years. As that higher starting salary ripples through every future raise, every bonus, even your retirement contributions down the line. This makes it incredibly hard to feel the immediate benefit, especially when you're facing the very tangible, immediate discomfort of, asking for more. You're confronting this invisible future gain against a very real present fear. That immediate discomfort is so powerful, isn't it? It makes us almost actively ignore that long-term payoff.
Exactly. Our brains are fundamentally wired, to prioritize immediate, tangible rewards. And this deeply affects how we approach everything related to money, including those critical salary negotiations. Dan Ariely's fascinating research from his work in behavioral economics really brings this to light. He explains that our brains struggle to mentally account for money spent if we don't physically feel each purchase. It just sort of evaporates. And the same principle applies directly to the invisible gains from smart financial decisions, or, yes, successful negotiations. If we don't find a way to tangibly track these efforts, we lose that crucial feeling of payoff, which is absolutely essential for sustained motivation. It's hard to keep going without that sense of progress.
So it's like we need to make the invisible visible.
Precisely. Ariely conducted a truly insightful study with Kenyan families living in poverty, and the findings were just profound. Instead of simply giving them monetary incentives to save more, they were provided with small, physical tokens, like little coins that had absolutely no monetary value themselves. They were just a way to track their savings contributions, a physical marker.
Okay, interesting.
And these tokens, these visible symbols of their positive financial decision-making, actually proved more effective than direct monetary incentives or even simple reminders in getting people to save more consistently.
Wow, more effective than actual money.
Yes. The lesson here is incredibly powerful. If some of the most impoverished people in the world can be motivated by a tangible, non-monetary representation of their financial efforts, then we absolutely can too.
That's fascinating. So how do we apply that? How do we make our own negotiation efforts feel more real?
Okay, so how do we apply this profound insight to the realm of negotiation? We need to make those invisible gains, the hours spent preparing, the market research you did, the potential future earnings. We need to make them feel more real, even long before that extra money actually hits our bank account. This means meticulously documenting your preparation. Track the hours you spend researching market rates, list every specific value proposition you bring to a role, detail the benefits you're seeking. Think of it maybe like a video game. Every hour you spend researching, every achievement you document, every skill you list, these aren't just tasks. They're like experience points. They're currency.
Okay, gamify the prep work. I like that.
Exactly. Create a negotiation journal. Maybe use a digital tracker or even just a simple spreadsheet. It's not just a record. It's your personal financial scoreboard. It makes your effort feel like tangible progress and builds momentum for the actual ask. This turns the abstract into something concrete in your mind, reinforcing your motivation throughout the entire, often quite lengthy process.
That's a brilliant reframe, turning those intangible efforts into visible progress. It makes so much sense when you think about how our brains work, wanting that feedback. But what about the flip side of that coin? We've established our brains struggle with valuing those unseen future benefits. But what about the pain? The pain of losing something we already feel we have or might achieve. That brings us to another huge psychological barrier, doesn't it? Something that can really hijack our negotiations.
Indeed, and that barrier is loss aversion. It's a big one. Here's the often unseen trap. Your brain is wired to feel the sting of losing a potential $5,000 far more intensely than the joy of gaining that same $5,000. It's an irrational feeling, perhaps, but an incredibly powerful force in our decision-making.
I can definitely relate to that feeling.
Right. Think about investors who hold on to, say, declining real estate investments for years longer than any rational decision would dictate. They're so averse to realizing that loss, to seeing it on paper, that they ignore all the signs pointing to a beneficial portfolio adjustment, and they end up locking in even greater losses over time.
Oof. Okay, so how does loss aversion show up in salary talks?
Well, in salary negotiation, loss aversion can manifest in several tricky ways. It can make us devalue any concessions made by the employer, maybe focusing instead on what we didn't get. This can create a sense of dissatisfaction, even with what is objectively a good offer. More critically, perhaps, this bias makes us focus far too much on what we could lose by asking for more. The offer being rescinded, the relationship souring, rather than focusing on what we could potentially gain. It can also cause both parties to drift further apart, clinging to their initial positions because giving ground feels like a loss.
Okay, so it makes us overly cautious and maybe a bit stubborn.
Pretty much. But the ultimate insight here, the strategic shift, is to learn how to flip that script. Instead of focusing only on what you could gain or what the other side might gain by accepting your offer, try focusing on what the other side might lose if they don't agree to your offer.
Turn it around on them.
Exactly. This can be significantly more persuasive. For instance, instead of saying, if you offer me X, you'll gain a highly motivated employee, which focuses on their gain, you might emphasize, if we don't reach an agreement on my compensation, you risk losing a top candidate who can immediately deliver on these critical objectives, potentially delaying project timelines, impacting team morale, and incurring significant additional recruitment costs. See the difference?
Yeah, that feels much more impactful. You're highlighting their potential pain point.
Precisely. This approach turns loss aversion against itself, leveraging their inherent fear of a potential loss to promote the change you desire. It creates a powerful incentive for them to meet your terms. It's subtle, but often incredibly effective.
Makes sense. Okay, so we have invisible gains, loss aversion. What else is messing with our heads?
Well, no discussion of negotiation psychology would be complete without dissecting the infamous anchoring bias. This is the tendency for the very first piece of information received about a value, that initial anchor, to heavily influence all subsequent judgments. And this happens even if that initial information is completely irrelevant or, frankly, wildly implausible.
Right, I heard of this, like the first price you see for something.
Exactly. It's incredibly pervasive. It impacts everything from people guessing, say, Mount Everest's height after being shown a random number, to legal sentencing in courtrooms, consumer purchasing decisions, and yes, especially salary negotiations. That first number thrown out, whether it's by you or the employer, becomes a powerful focal point. It pulls all subsequent discussion and even our internal expectations towards it.
So it really sets the benchmark, even if it's arbitrary.
Totally. And what's even more remarkable is how deeply this bias affects even seasoned experts, people who should know better. There's a well-known study where experienced legal professionals were influenced by arbitrary anchors when determining criminal sentences. They were given a scenario, then asked to roll a dice, which was actually rigged to show either a low or high number, and that completely arbitrary dice roll then influenced the severity of the sentence they suggested.
Wait, a dice roll influenced a legal sentence? Seriously?
Seriously. It demonstrates that anchoring operates automatically, often outside of our conscious awareness or logical evaluation. It's not about lacking expertise, it's about how our brains initially process information and then struggle to move away from that starting point.
Wow. That's scary, actually.
It is, and businesses skillfully use this all the time, often without us even noticing. Think about how many restaurants sort their menu prices from high to low, those high prices at the top. They act as a subliminal anchor. They make the slightly less expensive items further down the list seem more reasonable, maybe even cheap by comparison.
Ah, I see that now. Sneaky.
Or consider the decoy effect, where an inferior third option is strategically introduced simply to make a bundled deal seem far more attractive. These are all subtle but incredibly powerful uses of anchoring to influence perception and ultimately our decisions.
Wow. That example with the legal professionals and the dice is truly eye-opening. It really underscores just how unconscious and pervasive anchoring is. So what this all means is that first number thrown out there, whether it's an employer's initial offer or your opening salvo, it really sticks in our heads, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
It sets the entire tone and expectation for the discussion, and it's clearly something we need to be incredibly mindful of when we enter any negotiation. It's like the North Star for the entire conversation, pulling everything towards it.
Precisely. It has that magnetic pull.
Okay. Now, beyond these external psychological forces and the fear of potential loss, sometimes our biggest negotiation opponent isn't across the table at all. Sometimes it's ourselves.
It's that persistent nagging voice in our head, that feeling of, do I really deserve this? It's an incredibly common internal battle, one I've certainly wrestled with myself. This internal struggle often manifests as imposter syndrome, that persistent, unsettling feeling of not being good enough, despite clear, objective evidence of success and achievement.
Oh, yes. Imposter syndrome is huge in this context.
It just surfaces so acutely during salary discussions, right? Making us hesitant, maybe even paralyzed, to ask for what we're truly worth, convinced someone will finally find us out.
It truly is a profound internal struggle, and the connection between our self-worth and salary is surprisingly direct and powerful. It's not just a feeling, it has real financial consequences. I recall a client, let's call her Chanel, who, despite excelling in her role, consistently receiving glowing performance reviews, even getting encouragement from her employer, she actually asked for a demotion and a salary cut.
She asked for a demotion.
What?
Yes. Her self-worth was so low, she was genuinely intimidated by the responsibilities of her current position and felt utterly incapable, despite all the evidence showing she was doing great. Now, that's an extreme example, of course, but it powerfully illustrates how deeply our internal perception of value can hijack our professional trajectory and our financial potential.
That's incredible. But it does highlight how much our internal state matters.
Absolutely. And research consistently backs this up. Studies repeatedly show that people with higher self-worth, those who genuinely believe in their capabilities and value, consistently command higher salaries. One particular study even found a strong correlation between self-confidence during teenage years and higher earnings later in adulthood.
So it's not just about the job making you confident.
Exactly. It's not that a high-paying job magically gives you confidence. It's often that confident people, those who truly perceive themselves in a positive light, are the ones who proactively pursue and land those stellar positions. They exude and project that positive self-perception. Self-worth, remember, is internal. It's subjective. It's not a measure of external value. It's about how you value yourself, which then informs how you allow others to value you.
That's a crucial distinction. It starts from within.
It does. And we also absolutely need to acknowledge the gendered challenges in negotiation. This adds another layer of complexity for many. Women often find themselves navigating a double-edged sword in these situations. Research unfortunately indicates that both men and women tend to judge females who ask for higher salaries more harshly.
Really? Both men and women?
Yes. They're often perceived as overly aggressive or demanding a judgment that is not typically applied to men who do the very same thing. This societal bias can be incredibly disheartening and certainly contributes to imposter syndrome, creating an additional layer of anxiety for many women.
That's tough. So what's the takeaway there?
Well, it's absolutely crucial to reinforce that these deeply ingrained gender stereotypes should never dictate your self-worth or prevent you from confidently demanding your true value. Understanding that this bias exists is the first powerful step in actively working to overcome its influence on your own behavior, your expectations, and ultimately your financial outcomes. Awareness is key.
Right. Knowing it's there helps you fight against it, internally and externally.
Exactly. And this brings us to a fundamental, incredibly empathetic principle from Morgan Housel's brilliant book, The Psychology of Money. It's the idea that no one is crazy.
I love that concept.
Me too. Housel argues that our behavior around money, whether it's our spending habits, our investing choices, or, yes, our profound negotiation anxieties, it doesn't stem from some moral failing or inherent irrationality. Instead, it arises from our unique life experiences, our individual upbringings, our deeply personal psychology, your craziness in negotiation, those collywobbles, that imposter syndrome, the fear of asking. It's just a reflection of your unique history, your past experiences, your learned beliefs about money and worth.
That takes some of the pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Precisely. Understanding that these biases and anxieties are common, deeply rooted, and universally human helps us approach them with empathy for ourselves and, importantly, less self-judgment. It normalizes what we might perceive as our own unique shortcomings, realizing they're part of the human condition, shaped by our individual journeys.
Okay, so understanding our craziness is helpful.
Yes, and this raises an important question for all of us. How do we effectively bridge the gap between acknowledging these very real, deeply ingrained internal feelings and still advocating for ourselves effectively and successfully out there in the real world?
That truly is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yes. Okay.
We've identified some of these powerful psychological forces at play, the invisible influences shaping our perceptions, those deep-seated biases like loss aversion and anchoring, and those challenging internal battles like imposter syndrome. So now that we understand the why, how do we actually use this profound knowledge to our advantage? How do we prepare ourselves not just with market numbers, but with that crucial mental fortitude?
Right.
This isn't just about reacting to an offer, is it? It feels like it has to be about proactively shaping the conversation and taking control of your financial destiny.
Absolutely. It's about moving from reactive to proactive. The path forward lies in a strategic combination of, first, thorough preparation, and second, the deliberate leveraging of these very psychological insights we've just discussed. First and foremost, it's about preparation as power. Knowing your value broadly. This goes far beyond just having a single number in your head. It's about building a comprehensive understanding of your holistic worth in the current market.
Okay, so step one, do your homework.
Properly. Properly is the key word. Begin with robust market research. Don't guess. Get data. Utilize reliable internet salary calculators like Glassdoor and PayScale. They aggregate real-world data directly from employees, offering a pretty transparent view of market rates. For those maybe earlier in their careers or in specific academic fields, resources like the NE Salary Survey can be invaluable. And if you need incredibly detailed geographical breakdowns or industry-specific insights, salaryexpert.com is a fantastic tool.
Got it. Use multiple sources, get real data.
Yes. These aren't just arbitrary numbers. They are your first, most powerful line of defense against lowball offers and your foundation for setting an ambitious yet realistic anchor. This knowledge is genuinely your shield and your sword in this process.
Okay, so you've got your base salary range figured out, but you mentioned holistic value.
Right. And here's the crucial part. You absolutely must not fixate only on the base salary. That's a huge mistake. You need to evaluate the entire compensation package. Benefits, for instance, can add an astonishing 30% or even more to your total compensation. It's an enormous, often overlooked part of your total value proposition.
30%. Wow, okay, that's significant. What kind of things should we be looking at?
It's a lot. When considering an offer, think broadly. First, health benefits. Medical, dental, optical insurance. Employer group rates are often significantly cheaper and more comprehensive than individual plans you'd buy yourself. That's real money saved.
Okay, health insurance. Makes sense.
Then, future earnings. Ask about salary progression expectations. What do performance-based raises and bonuses typically look like? What's the average range of raises over, say, the first 3 to 5 years? This shows the long-term potential.
Good point. Look beyond year one.
Absolutely. Protection. Is there life and accidental death insurance? Basic term coverage provides peace of mind. What about disability insurance, both short-term, maybe up to 6 months, and long-term for situations beyond that? These are vital safety nets.
Disability is often overlooked, but so important.
Critically important. Time off. How many paid time off days are included? This covers vacation, paid holidays like Thanksgiving or New Year's, and dedicated sick or personal days. Remember, your time is incredibly valuable.
Yes. Don't underestimate the value of time off.
Never. Retirement planning. Is there a 401k with an employer match? Or perhaps a traditional pension plan? These contributions are essentially free money and absolutely critical for long-term wealth accumulation. Don't leave that mash on the table.
Free money is good.
Yeah.
What else?
Equity and incentives. Does the company offer profit sharing, stock options, employee stock ownership plans, or ESOPs? These give you a direct stake in the company's success. Professional development. Is tuition reimbursement available? If you're looking to further your education or gain certifications, this is a huge plus.
Right, investing in yourself.
Exactly. Support systems. Do they offer employee assistance programs, EAPs? These often provide free or low-cost counseling and support for various personal and professional situations. And don't forget the daily perks. What about overtime pay or travel premiums? Comp time for extra hours worked? How about parking allowances, commuting subsidies, or expense reimbursement for work-related costs? These little things add up.
They really do. Parking alone can be huge depending on where you work.
For sure. And finally, if relevant, relocation support. If you're moving for the role, are there relocation packages? These can cover things like house hunting trips, moving costs, temporary housing, even help for a spouse's reemployment.
That exhaustive list of benefits is truly eye-opening. It highlights just how much value we might miss if we only focus on that base salary number. It really paints a complete picture of compensation, doesn't it?
It really does. It's the total reward picture.
But okay, for someone navigating this for the first time, or maybe even a seasoned pro looking at that long list, what's one critical mistake people still make when evaluating this whole package? And how do they avoid sounding, greedy when trying to negotiate all those different components? That feels like a tightrope walk.
That's a fantastic question, and it speaks directly back to our internal struggles, doesn't it? A critical mistake is not prioritizing what matters most to you beyond the base salary. You likely won't get absolutely everything on that list, right? But knowing your top 2 or 3 non-salary priorities beforehand allows you to be both flexible and focused in the negotiation.
Okay, so pick your battles, essentially. Know what's most important.
Exactly. And you avoid sounding greedy by framing your requests in terms of the value they bring to the company, not just to you. For example, instead of just saying, I want tuition reimbursement, which sounds a bit demanding, try phrasing it like, I'm really committed to bringing the latest skills and knowledge to this role. Is there a tuition reimbursement program that could support my professional development? I believe the advanced techniques I'd learn would directly benefit the team's projects.
Ah, that's much better. It connects your request to their benefit. Subtle but powerful shift.
It really is. It changes the dynamic from demanding to collaborating. Okay, so now let's talk about leveraging psychological insights to counteract biases. You've done your research, you know your holistic value. Now, how do you put that knowledge into action during the actual conversation?
Right. The practical application. How do we use the psychology?
Okay, a key strategy Directly leveraging that anchoring bias we talked about is to set your own anchor strategically. Remember how powerful that first number is? There's anonymous advice often shared on platforms like Reddit, that simply states, just ask for a big number because then the company thinks you're worth it. It helps in the long run.
Right, I've seen stuff like that. Just go high.
And while it sounds a bit blunt, it's not just bravado. It's a direct, practical application of the anchoring effect. By starting high within a plausible and well-researched market value range, of course, you set a powerful anchor, pulling the final offer upwards significantly. It also subtly signals confidence, expertise, and a clear understanding of your market value.
Okay, but how high is too high? That's the scary part.
That's the crucial caveat. You need to avoid starting too high and signaling a lack of realism, which can definitely alienate the employer or make them think you haven't done your homework. But equally, don't start too low, which can betray a lack of self-confidence and immediately undervalue your worth before you even begin. The key is finding that sweet spot, a number that feels ambitious but is still defensible based on your research. Often, this is towards the higher end of the realistic market range you've identified.
Ambitious but defensible, okay.
Yes. You should have specific goals in mind, but always remain open to counteroffers. Remember, negotiation, by its very nature, is a dynamic dance, not a fixed demand.
It's a conversation.
Exactly. Next, you need to proactively address imposter syndrome head-on. That incredibly common sentiment we hear, I always feel like a phony when I negotiate, is a very real emotional hurdle. But here's a truth that can help silence that nagging voice. Companies have budget ranges for positions for a reason. They expect to pay within a certain band.
Okay, so they have a range already.
They do. And if your ask is within that budgeted range, as one Redditor astutely noted online, if $225K is within the budgeted range, they're not going to give a shit if you ask for it. They either can or can't do it.
Huh. That's putting it bluntly, but it makes sense.
It does. They expect negotiation. It's a standard, anticipated part of the hiring process. It's not some weird, unexpected demand. If you're well qualified and confident in your abilities, asking for the higher end of their range doesn't make you a phony. It actually conveys that you're not an average candidate. It communicates that you believe you are exceptional and you know your worth in the market. This mindset shift, moving from fear to confident assertion based on data, is absolutely critical.
Okay, so reframe asking high as signaling your quality, not being greedy or fake.
Precisely. We can also strategically work on influencing reference points. Savvy negotiators constantly, and often subtly, direct the discussion to shift the other side's focus or perspective. For example, instead of just stating your desired salary up front, maybe ask questions that subtly reveal their underlying assumptions or highlight their potential losses if they don't hire you.
Like what kind of questions?
Well, a direct question like, what is the budgeted salary range for this position, might help you understand their existing anchor point if they're willing to share. Or to leverage that loss aversion we talked about, you could ask something like, how much time and resource will it take your team to complete this critical project if we don't reach an agreement and you have to restart this entire search process?
Ooh, that puts the cost of not hiring you right in front of them.
Exactly. It subtly highlights their potential loss, the costs of delay, the missed opportunities, the continued expenditure on recruitment if they don't secure you. Connecting this to the bigger picture, you can discuss the possibility of a greater loss for them, for instance, losing a top-tier candidate like yourself, especially if you possess unique skills or critical experience they need right now. This can make your requested compensation appear far more attractive by comparison, effectively leveraging their loss aversion against itself. It's about making them clearly see the compelling value of what they gain by saying yes to you, and the tangible, potentially costly impact of what they lose by saying no.
It's all about framing, isn't it? Shifting their perspective.
A huge part of it is framing. And finally, let's delve into the art of the ask, navigating the conversation itself with finesse and confidence. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Okay, the actual negotiation moment. What are the key things to keep in mind?
First, overcoming fear of retaliation. This is a very significant psychological barrier for many people. Coaches frequently cite the fear of retaliation specifically, job offers being withdrawn, or future relationships becoming strained as a key reason why people hesitate to negotiate at all.
Yeah, that fear is real. What if they just pull the offer?
It feels real, absolutely. But remember, negotiation is not typically seen as a confrontation by employers. It is a standard, expected, and often even respected part of the hiring process, especially for professional roles. Research actually shows that even a simple light touch encouragement intervention, just gently encouraging people to negotiate, significantly increased negotiation attempts and, crucially, resulted in higher compensation gains. So don't let fear paralyze you. Companies generally expect it, and often they interpret your willingness to negotiate as a sign of confidence and business acumen.
Okay, so reframe it as expected, not confrontational. Good. What about timing?
Timing and patience are key, especially if you're working with external recruiters for direct placement roles. Try to avoid negotiating too early in the process. Wait until they've invested significant time and effort in you. Presenting you to the client, championing your skills, setting up multiple interviews. This creates a strong incentive for them to advocate for you and get you what you want, because they are already invested in your placement and eager to close the deal and get their commission. Your patience becomes their incentive.
Let them get invested first. Smart.
It leverages their motivation. Also, plan for strategic pauses and breaks. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by an offer, or maybe you just need a moment to collect your thoughts and reevaluate your strategy, use pre-planned excuses.
Like what? What can you say?
Something simple and professional, like, "That's a very comprehensive offer, and I truly appreciate you sharing the details. I need a moment to look over the benefit package carefully," or even, "Thank you, I need to discuss this with my spouse partner before I can give you a definitive answer."
Okay, buying yourself time.
Exactly. Stepping away, even for just a few minutes or agreeing to reconnect the next day, helps manage emotions, allows you to re-engage your rational brain and rethink your strategy more clearly without pressure. Don't feel you have to respond instantly.
Good advice. What about knowing when not to take the deal?
That leads to when to walk away. This is perhaps the hardest, yet sometimes the most empowering skill in negotiation. If an offer is significantly, fundamentally below your researched market value and your absolute needs. For example, if your research needs put you at $80,000, but they're firmly stuck at $63,000 with absolutely no room to move on salary or significant benefits, sometimes taking the risk to walk away is genuinely better than accepting detrimental terms that will make you feel undervalued or financially strained from day one.
That takes courage, though.
It takes immense courage. But it shows profound self-respect and prevents potential long-term financial and emotional damage. Remember, not every offer is the right offer for you, and having the courage to know your limits and prioritize your worth is crucial for your long-term well-being and career trajectory.
Powerful point. Okay, what else in the actual conversation?
Listening as a key skill, especially in a softer job market where employers might feel they have more leverage. Active listening is absolutely paramount. Instead of just launching into a list of your skills and accomplishments, actively listen to the company's pain points, their current challenges, their future vision. Ask clarifying questions. Then frame yourself not just as qualified, but as the direct solution to their specific problems.
So tailor your pitch to their needs.
Precisely. For example, instead of simply saying, "I've worked with Java quite a bit," maybe try, "I've worked extensively with Java. Tell me more about the specific applications you're envisioning or the current challenges your team faces with Project X so I can share the most relevant examples of how I've solved similar problems in the past."
Oh.
This shifts the focus entirely to their needs and positions you as the person who can meet them, making you seem incredibly attractive and potentially indispensable.
Makes you a problem solver, not just a candidate.
Exactly. And finally, quickly, dealing with recruiters. It helps to understand their business model. If they vend you to a client, the client pays them an hourly rate and the recruiter pays you, keeping the difference. In this scenario, you often have more room to negotiate your rate directly with the recruiter.
Okay, so you negotiate with the recruiter if they're the ones paying you.
Right. But if it's a direct placement, the recruiter receives a one-time fee from the company for placing you, and your actual negotiation is directly with the client company. Recruiters in either model generally want quick deals and may sometimes try to talk you out of negotiating for more, as it can complicate their process or timeline.
So their interests aren't always perfectly aligned with yours.
Not always perfectly, no. So manage your expectations and timing carefully when working with them, recognizing their incentives are often to close the deal efficiently, not necessarily to maximize your specific offer down to the last dollar. Just be aware of the dynamic.
This deep dive has truly given us so many powerful tools for that specific, often high-stakes negotiation moment. It's fascinating how much is about understanding the intricate dance of human psychology, not just the math. But as you said earlier, this isn't just about a single paycheck, right? What about the bigger picture? How does mastering this skill connect to our overall financial journey, our long-term wealth, and maybe even our sense of happiness and control? Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money offers some timeless lessons here that feel like they beautifully tie into everything we've been discussing, helping us put these negotiation insights into a much grander context.
Indeed, it's so important to connect the dots. This isn't just about the immediate gain from one negotiation. It's about integrating these insights into a broader, more empowering philosophy of financial well-being over your lifetime. Morgan Housel, who is just a brilliant mind in financial psychology, and yes, a personal favorite of mine too, often speaks compellingly about financial freedom and time control. He highlights that the absolute best value money offers isn't really about accumulating more possessions or even just having a bigger bank balance for its own sake. It's primarily about the control it gives you over your most precious, non-renewable asset, your time.
Control over time, that resonates.
Doesn't it? The ability to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, for as long as you want. Successful negotiation directly contributes to this profound freedom. Each successful negotiation allows you to build more invisible wealth, that money saved and invested, not just spent, which then compounds over time, further enhancing that control and freedom. It's arguably the ultimate return on your investment in yourself and your negotiation skills.
So each negotiation win builds towards that bigger goal of autonomy.
Exactly. Housel also famously states something like, intelligence is not a reliable advantage in a world that's become as connected as ours has, but flexibility is. This idea of flexibility as a competitive advantage is incredibly relevant in today's rapidly changing world.
Flexibility over just being smart. Interesting.
Yeah, think about it. A strong financial position, partly secured by consistently effective negotiation over your career, provides this invaluable flexibility. It allows you to patiently wait for truly good opportunities rather than jumping at the first thing that comes along. It lets you invest in learning new skills at your own pace, maybe pivot your career path to find your unique niche, all without feeling that urgent financial pressure to chase every trend or accept a less than ideal offer just to pay the bills. This freedom from constant financial anxiety can be far more valuable, Housel argues, than any specific skill set you might possess.
That makes a lot of sense. Financial breathing room buys you options.
It buys you options and reduces stress. Another profound lesson from Housel, especially relevant to the unpredictable nature of negotiations and careers, is his advice to plan on the plan not going according to plan.
Yes. Life rarely goes exactly as planned.
So true. He wisely says something like, a plan is only useful if it can survive reality, and a future filled with unknowns is everyone's reality. And crucially, the most important part of every plan is to plan on the plan not going according to plan.
I love that. Build in the expectation of bumps.
Exactly. This mindset applies directly to negotiation. Be prepared for unexpected turns for an offer that isn't what you expected, or for the job market to suddenly shift, or for the company's needs to change. Having a margin of safety, both financially, like an emergency fund, and mentally, like knowing your walkaway point and having alternatives, allows you to navigate these inevitable surprises without being completely derailed or feeling desperate. It empowers you to confidently walk away when necessary, knowing you have a backup plan or the resources to wait, rather than being forced into a corner and accepting a bad deal.
So resilience is key, built on that flexibility.
Resilience and preparedness. And finally, let's circle back to a core, empowering message that echoes through a lot of this work, including insights from places like the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. While our brains and behaviors are largely innate, we have the ability to critically challenge and overcome these tendencies and make better decisions.
That's hopeful. We're not just stuck with our biases.
Not at all. This is profoundly liberating. You absolutely have the capacity to recognize biases like anchoring or loss aversion in yourself and others. You have the ability to actively reflect on your decision-making process and to consciously reduce your susceptibility to these psychological traps. Now, it takes conscious effort, it takes consistent practice, and it takes a willingness to challenge your own assumptions and gut feelings sometimes. But the rewards in terms of your financial well-being, your career satisfaction, and your overall sense of personal empowerment are truly immeasurable. You can get better at this.
It's about awareness and deliberate practice then.
Absolutely. Which truly raises an important question for you, our listener, as you reflect on all this. What stands out to you most about how these insights could transform your approach? Not just to salary negotiation, maybe, but to your overall financial journey.
Wow. What an incredibly insightful and, I think, really empowering deep dive today. We've
Hmm.
truly peeled back the layers, haven't we? Moving beyond just the numbers to understand the profound psychology at play in these crucial conversations. We've explored the surprising power of invisible outcomes, recognized those universal collywobbles of negotiation anxiety, unmasked pervasive biases like loss aversion and the sneaky anchoring effect.
Hmm.
We've tackled imposter syndrome head-on, which so many of us feel, and armed ourselves with a really practical strategic playbook. Everything from meticulous market research to the nuanced art of the strategic ask and knowing when to pause. My mind is definitely buzzing with new ways to approach these conversations.
That's great to hear. And absolutely, remember, the ultimate goal here isn't just to get more money, although, let's be clear, that's certainly a fantastic outcome and a powerful motivator for many. It's fundamentally about understanding the intricate psychology behind money and our own decision-making processes, so you can make informed choices that truly align with your intrinsic value and, crucially, your long-term financial well-being. By applying these simple, consistent steps, by preparing diligently, by being mindful of your own biases and potentially those of others, and by confidently advocating for yourself based on data and value, you are actively taking control of your personal finances and consciously shaping your future. This deep dive into negotiation skills is really a direct, powerful application of those broader psychology of money principles we touched on, fostering clarity, motivation, and ultimately profound empowerment in your entire financial life.
Beautifully put. We truly hope this deep dive leaves you, our listeners, feeling clear, motivated, and empowered to approach your next salary conversation, or frankly, any financial discussion, with newfound confidence and strategy. If you've enjoyed this exploration, please take a moment to leave us a comment, perhaps share this deep dive with a friend or colleague who might benefit from these insights, and please join our growing community as we continue to unravel the fascinating world of financial psychology together. And as you reflect on your next salary conversation, or maybe even look back on past ones, consider this final thought. What other invisible financial opportunities might you be overlooking right now, simply because your brain hasn't quite made them tangible or emotionally salient for you yet? There's always more to discover about ourselves and our money, isn't there?